Strap in and be prepared.
Maybe I learned from your failures.
That is what you could do.
Yeah.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, George Reiser, Ryan Lee, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I think Dan Lanning sitting in his office going, you know what, fine, give us the toughest road to win the national championship. That's what it should be.
Oregon State in their baseball program is still operating from a position of strength, even if they're independent. But here they are in the College World Series.
And some smiles.
It's iconic.
We're not keeping score, but maybe we're keeping score.
The fastest 60 minutes in sports is on the air. It's Danny Havel.
When I wake up every morning, I say to myself, what can I do to make Baby J's life better today?
Justin Grossweiner.
Have I ever told you, Danny, that growing up I really loved ducks?
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome high atop the Delta Triad, the Crystal Palace, the Fox Sports Eugene and Newport studios. This is the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk. We do more with an hour than most do with 3. This is the Danny and Justin radio program, live from the Bigfoot Beverages studios in Eugene and Newport, and also the Oregon Man Clinics hotline at 541-343-5673. It is a beautiful Monday. You all made it through the weekend, and Monday is here. But it's a beautiful day outside. It's a beautiful day inside, as we've got a full slate of talk for you and thoughts, some laughs, and some concerns. But we'll hear from Coach Dan Lanning. It's media days for Oregon. They're actually still over at the club at Autzen with all the players having their little gaggles, as we call them in the media world. We'll talk about that. Talk about Deion Sanders with the announcement today. Have our news and notes. And the Eugene Emeralds are in great shape right now. They're in a big win streak, and they're back home. We'll talk about all of that. I am Danny Havel. Right over there is my tag team partner, Justin Grossweiner. We call him Baby J. What up, boy?
Well, I'm just happy I made it back because, as you mentioned, everybody's still over at the club at Autzen. Yeah. I am not. I made it back here. I had to leave a little early at media days, but it was fun being there, and it was interesting to hear Dan Lanning. Of course, a couple of the players I got to hear, it was, of course, interesting to hear from them as well, but interesting for Dan Lanning. He doesn't usually say a lot. I think I don't want to say he said more than usual, but I certainly think it wasn't like a total snooze fest at media day.
So kind of what we were discussing on Friday with why do we do media days?
Right.
And, okay, well, good. I'll be looking forward to hearing from Coach Lanning here in a few moments. And just by the way, we do have some interviews from players as well, but we're not going to get to those today. It's just too much. There was too.
The window was very tight.
Justin was just everybody back off. Justin was stressed out enough as it was to try and get Dan Lanning's audio on, since I had gone and said we were going to have it on today. So give him a little grace. We'll get to all the. We've got plenty of time this week. Plenty of player interviews to get to, and Oregon State media days are tomorrow, right?
I think Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. They're this week as well.
Right.
So we're going to have some audio from that as well this week. So
well, I'm just happy. This is the first time I've gotten to sit and just sort of relax in about 24 hours, because I was doing a lot yesterday. I was driving a lot. I was up in Portland. I drove back. I did
those
that
were
at
by
like
choice,
1 in the morning.
though, because
Of course, by
fun.
choice. No. I'm saying, of course, by choice, but it's nice to be able to just sit here and talk.
Major League Baseball trading deadline still approacheth. There is some Major League Baseball news as well. A couple more moves by other teams. We might not get to all of them and dive in, but I also still want to talk about who is going to make the biggest move, because there is one player out there that I think to be coveted by a lot of teams, and that's the third baseman from the Diamondbacks, right?
Yep, Eugenio Suarez.
So we'll talk about that and see who's going to grab him. Again, as I said, news and notes. And the Oregon Man Clinics hotline open for you. If you want to call in, I'll watch the little light over there. And if somebody wants to dive on in and take us to the right field, we can go do that at 541-343-5673. Want to mention, if you're traversing and you like the old pugilistic endeavors, if you're a boxing fan, there is fight night down at the Mill Casino. And the Coquel Suite down there. I don't think it's called the Mill Casino anymore. It's not. It's Coquel. So the Brawl on the Bay. I'm doing this ad lib because I don't have a read yet, but I'm going to get the read. The Brawl on the Bay is August the 23rd. You got till August the 6th, so about another week or so, to sign up on the Fox Sports Eugene and I believe Newport websites. There's a meet and greet with the fighters, the participants, a one-night stay, Food is provided, 21 and over. You got to be that to be eligible. Anything alcohol-wise, that's not included, but, you'll have access to it. So go to the contest page and sign up for that, and we'll let you know August 7th who wins. Sounds like a pretty cool deal. I mean, we appreciate those folks down in Coos Bay at the casino, always doing these cool things with us. And also want to, I'm getting all the reads out of the way. Our friends at the Back Nine are still running some specials, so you can try out the Back Nine. If you haven't tried the Back Nine out yet, it is the Sim down on Coburg Road in the Sheldon Plaza, right next to Safeway, in that little shopping center there. 24/7 access. You can access, oh my gosh, I think there's probably hundreds of courses throughout the world that you can access. They have tournaments. They have birthday parties there. There's a conference room. You can rent the whole place out. You can rent one bay. You can rent two. And if you just want to try it out first, I'm sure they'll work with you. And I'm talking out of turn, but I know there's you don't have to go. What I'm saying is you don't have to go buy a membership. I think people get the whole 24/7 thing. It's like you got to buy a membership to go work out at the fitness club or something like that. You don't have to do that at the Back Nine. You can try it out first, and then they'll work a deal with you. But they've got memberships. We use it 24/7 access, as I said, and it's not just for the golfers, which the full swing technology is incredible, so it will help your game. But also there's things for the kids. Kick the soccer ball. There's other stuff. They have clubs down there as well. You don't need to even bring your own clubs. So that's the Back Nine on Coburg Road, especially with the warm weather. You want to beat the heat, go see the Back Nine and get your swing right on Coburg Road down there by Safeway. So what do you want to do next? You want to do news and notes?
Yeah, we can just hop into that.
By the way, I still haven't gotten my haircut. I've been trying so hard. So I actually,
busy.
Saturday, I went and grabbed the gear up at Laurelwood to try and test things out because we're going to have a brand new YouTube channel on Thursday. I am really excited about this. So I went and grabbed gear, and I drove by my hair salon. To say it like that sounds weird. They weren't open. They're not open on weekends, so I got to try and do it sometime this week. All right, Luka Doncic, the whole thing about his body. That was the big thing when he was in Dallas, right? They were like, he's pudgy. He doesn't want to play defense. No, they did say that.
I mean, I think it was a little bit exaggerated by the Mavericks. I'm not saying he wasn't overweight, but I do think that was an excuse as much as anything.
He has been conditioning himself in Croatia.
Oh, what a surprise. I'm so surprised.
So what he's doing, he's sticking to a gluten-free, low-sugar diet that includes intermittent fasting and high levels of protein, at least 250 grams per day. I don't know what that means in terms of, and they've got a picture of him if you want to go to the socials and look at it, and he's looking pretty taut.
This is like classic off-season NBA stuff. This is like Ben Simmons shooting some jumpers in a gym all over again. Yeah, okay, Luka's lost some weight. Let's see what happens.
I pick these kind of stories because I know it sets you off. Absolutely it does.
It's just a whole lot of nothing.
Good job, Luka. Good job, Luka.
I mean, sure, yeah, he's probably a little bit better shape. It's the off-season. Everybody should be. So I'm going to do a lot in the American League Central today for baseball. So we'll start off with Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase. He's going to be on non-disciplinary paid leave through August 31st as part of another investigation with the Guardians of a pitcher caught up in a gambling inquiry. It's just another one of those situations, Danny. Feels like this happens all the time.
We talked about this before. He was under investigation before. He's been a bad boy. And that's
Clase also, by the way, has been a steroid user as well.
That's what I'm saying. He's been a bad boy. I mean, the rules are there for everyone. And I think, especially in Major League Baseball, the whole gambling thing is that is one hot button issue still.
Certainly. And he's a 3-time All-Star. He's a guy that's basically one of the best closers in the league. I mean, I'm sure it takes him off of the trade market. I know he was kind of thrown around a little bit, but there's no way anybody's touching him at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to track this one because, I don't know, I think this is becoming a little bit of an epidemic in Major League Baseball.
Christian Wilkins was released by the Raiders, and they had a bunch of money that was freed up because of it, killed his guarantee contract. About $35.2 million of the guarantee money was left on his contract. They voided that because they say he was not treating himself the way they wanted him rehabbing from his injury. So that was the reason that they told.
The official reason.
The official reason. But now it comes out that Christian Wilkins kissed a fellow player on the head.
Yeah,
and the player
crossing of a line.
Player didn't like it very much.
You got to know your audience.
Now I hate the source thing. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program.
Unnamed source.
A source told ESPN the interaction was quote unquote playful, but the teammate didn't see it that way. And of course, you're a group of testosterone jacked up dudes. Yeah, that's probably not the best thing to do. But it's going to go through the grievance process as well. Not because of the kiss, I don't think. I think it's because of the rehab and the way the Raiders handle this, especially cutting that money out of the deal. He had signed just last offseason a $110 million deal, including $84.75 million guaranteed with Vegas.
Jeez.
So that
more great
1 year
financial
later,
decisions in the NBA, and specifically from the Raiders.
Yeah.
So as I said, I'm going to stay in the American League Central for baseball for a lot of my stories today. So one guy that will not be traded, another one, is Seth Lugo of the Kansas City Royals. He just agreed to a 2-year, $46 million extension. He was expected to be, Danny, one of the better starting pitchers available in this market right now, which doesn't have a lot of guys. He's 35 years old. Last year, he was second in the AL Cy Young when he was 2.95 ERA over 113 innings. He had a $15 million player option, so they basically just said, we're just going to take that off the table, and we're going to give you a 2-year deal. So the market becomes a little bit less, a little bit thinner again.
Less crowded, as they say. The Danny and Justin radio program live from the Bigfoot Beverages studio high atop the Delta Triad in Eugene and in Newport at 92.7 FM KNCU. Thanks for tuning in. We'll hear from Coach Dan Lanning of the Oregon Ducks. The football program had their media days today. In fact, it's still going on over there on campus, but we'll hear from the coach shortly on the Danny and Justin radio show. So I'll wind up with Philadelphia Phillies first baseman Bryce Harper. He is a passionate dude, one passionate dude, and that kind of spilled out into a run-in with MLB Commissioner, your favorite, Rob Manfred. It appears that Harper's passion for the game is in the clubhouse, as he told Manfred to get the bleep out of our clubhouse, reportedly, during a team meeting with the commissioner. Now, Manfred normally makes the route, goes all through all 30 Major League Baseball teams, and he's trying to build a bridge and forge and improve relationships. The meeting reportedly took a turn when Manfred started talking about game economics. And reportedly, Harper stood up, faced Manfred, and said, if you want to speak about that, you can bleep the bleep out of our clubhouse. And Manfred, now this is what I love about it. This is the other kicker. He apparently responded that he is not going to get the bleep out of here, and said it was important to talk about the threats to Major League Baseball's business and ways to grow the game. He never said the word salary cap in the meeting, apparently. But I just think it's funny that there is a lot of distrust with Rob Manfred on the Major League Baseball Players Union. The owners seem to like him. That's the only one that matters, because they're the one that vote him in and keep him there.
Right.
So,
well, it does matter, though, because I think
they're making money,
going to be a lockout. It sounds like
there very well could be. It's getting very contentious. It could be something we can watch.
Very contentious.
Yep.
And when is it? Is it in 2027?
2027, I believe. I'm going to look it up right now while you give us your last story.
All right, my last story of the day: the Detroit Tigers. They actually are making a trade. Chris Paddock, a guy that used to be a really big top prospect. I believe it was for the Padres when he was in the minor leagues, but just has never quite figured it out. He's only 29 years old, and he has a 4.95 ERA through 21 starts this season. Has a 4.5 ERA for his career. A guy that just has tons of potential, has good stuff, and the Tigers are just absolutely scuffling right now. I believe they've lost 12 out of 14 or something like that. They were by far the best team in the major leagues at one point. Now there's a lot of teams that are kind of in that 60-win area. So the Tigers looking to figure something out. They trade for some starting pitching and Chris Paddock.
All right, so there's your news and notes on the Danny and Justin Radio Extravaganza here for a Monday. By the way, the MLB CBA, Collective Bargaining Agreement, will expire on December 1st of 2026. So it covers through the 2026 season. So there's no agreement after midnight on the December 1st of next year. So they'll and these things take such a long time. They literally will probably start talking about it right as the regular season ends, because there won't be as many teams involved in the postseason, obviously, but it'll take that long and stretch even further, more than likely.
I'm concerned. I think that there's a big rift right now between player salaries and what these teams are really willing to pay. And there's like some teams that are willing to do what the Dodgers are doing right now, which is to pay those deferred salaries and to have it be those 10-year, $700 million contracts with deferred salaries. But I don't think these owners want to pay that.
They've never had a salary cap.
I know, and I don't think there should be a salary cap.
Well, but
honestly.
they're taking a page or a card from other professional sports that do have salary caps, and they're saying, you know what, maybe we should, but there has been a ton of pushback, and they're also talking about a salary floor.
That's what I'm more in favor of. I think a salary floor would be more helpful than a salary cap. Okay, because here's my thing, Danny. If you
can't have
an
teams
MLB
like the
owner,
A's or something like that to just go on the cheap.
If you're an MLB owner, you should be able to do what it takes to actually invest in the team, and if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be an owner. And I just think it's as simple as that.
So I think what's also interesting is that the news came out now normally it's not released, but since the Green Bay Packers are the only publicly owned team,
so it's all public.
We know how much the revenue share is for all of the NFL clubs. $438 million.
Because it's evenly split, right?
Evenly
split. The Packers are kind of the litmus
It's an
test.
equal share. So that is crazy. How much money, and that's the revenue share. So that's the quote unquote
what's crazy for me, at least, is that in the NFL, the salaries are in all sports are crazy, but comparatively to some of these other sports, the salaries
it's not.
Oh, it's totally not. Like you're looking at if you're an NBA bench player, you're getting more than some of the stars in the NFL.
So the one that's the most convoluted, as far as I'm concerned, is the NBA, because they start talking about different tiers of exceeding
well, they've
a
just
cap
really messed things up with this latest CBA, and I don't think anybody likes it. And there's like the aprons. That's what they're calling them, and basically they're just certain tiers. If you're paying a certain amount of money, if you're over the luxury tax,
then you go to a second one.
Certain things, so you can't pick up guys that are buyouts. You can't make trades where it's not an even amount of play. They just add these restrictions the higher up you go. So if you're like the third tier, I think it's the second apron, then you're super duper restricted with any sort of roster moves that you can do that just the general best teams are able to do. And I know the biggest problem people have with this new CBA and the NBA, this is a total side topic, but basically the fact that there seems to be a de-emphasis on drafting and developing and keeping your own players. Teams are just not able to do that anymore because guys are just becoming too expensive. And if once you get over into those aprons, you're just kind of a fish out of water. You're up a creek without a paddle. And so that's why a team like the Thunder, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Well, and we've had this discussion throughout the balance of the end of the season into the postseason, and now in the offseason is, can you build a team without a superstar? Portland's trying to build a team without a quote-unquote superstar, and then they go ahead and sign Dame
back. Yeah.
I was going to say, but that's a 2027 discussion.
Like, well, he's still a star, which we'll see.
We'll see if he is or not. But you understand what I'm saying, because we've had this theorem or this. And that's the way the NBA has been built, is around, and even every sport
There's
that
like
we
8
see.
guys that basically make actual waves in the NBA that actually mean something and matter for winning championships.
But the ones that have won the championships, there's always a centerpiece or two that are in that
it's like
discussion.
LeBron, Curry, Jokic,
Kawhi Leonard,
Leonard, Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, there's Tim Duncan, Kobe. Like, there's really not too many guys that yes, there's one-off championships. Teams will just win a championship,
and then you don't hear again them for 10 years.
But there's certainly only a handful of guys that year to year make an impact with actual championship aspirations.
You see how we did the entire circle there? We went from the NBA, we went through the NFL, and the Major League Baseball. We did a big circle. So hockey, and I'm the only one that cares about hockey here. I am absolutely the only one who cares. But I know who you care about is Dan Lanning, the coach of the Oregon Ducks. And we're going to hear from him at Media Day. He did have some interesting things today about the offseason. We'll talk about a couple of players as well that are getting some recognition nationally on the Ducks, and a couple of them are transfers. In fact, we'll talk about 3 big transfers when we come back with the Danny and Justin radio program live in Eugene and Newport, Fox Sports. Thank goodness Deion Sanders, coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, it says he's got a clean bill of health right now, but we'll talk about his health scare and then also all of the rumors that swirled around when Colorado said that Deion and his medical team were going to have a press conference today. Because this goes back to my pet. You have your pet peeves, Baby J. I've got my pet peeves, which is, let's quote a source. Let's quote an unnamed source. And I am still looking at websites right now that are, their headline is, here's a good one. Deion Sanders may step down on Monday as Colorado football coach. That's from EUR Web. Here's another one. Fans grow concerned over latest personal news about Deion Sanders from Athlon Sports.
Yeah.
And all of these articles gave the intimation that Deion was going to step down. That didn't happen. All Deion says now, you know what Deion's big line, the big takeaway today, and we'll get into it in a second, is he's going to depend on depends. He's making light of he had his bladder removed. He had bladder cancer. And thank goodness, I mean, he kept it. That was probably, I'm just going to say, it's probably one of the best kept secrets in college sports this last year that he went through that. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to have
he's
like
a lot of health problems.
Yeah.
I mean, he got his toe amputated, I believe, last year.
Yeah, he's not had an easy life since he retired from professional athletics. So in terms of health. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in the last segment when we have enough time. All right. So Oregon Media Day today. The Oregon coach, Dan Lanning, was at the podium and talked to the local media. He was just in Vegas last week with a couple of players, and now this is kind of like the big gaggle of folks that come around and ask all the silly questions and a lot of non-answers from the coach and coach speak.
There's a few of them that like he'll just straight up say, hey, I'm not going to answer that because I don't want to tell you. I'm not going to tell you guys things like that.
So was one of our favorite reporters kind of poking the bear right away?
No, it wasn't. It's not even that bad. I honestly think they're legitimate questions, but there's.
I don't say they're not legitimate.
No, I don't think anybody's in the wrong. I think that it's worth asking. Like, it's stuff like, hey, like, what kind of things are you looking to, personally improve this season? Like, he'll kind of be like, well, I don't, or like with the process, and they won't talk about the process.
So I wasn't there. I wasn't able to make it there because I had other commitments, but you were there. So the first question I would ask you, so I'm going to interview you here for a little bit before this goes on. So is the sense that there's optimism and enthusiasm. So this is probably a stupid question. See how I say about stupid questions? Here's my first stupid question. Optimism and enthusiasm about the season, because there's been a lot of turnover and there's a lot of unknowns. Now you're a little bullish on the season this year, or bearish.
I think I'm a little bit more on the I just don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. You say it could be 10 wins or it could be 12 wins. There's a big gap there.
Well, I think
and a big difference.
I think if they lost 3 regular season games, I wouldn't be like.
So that's a
shocked.
9-3 regular season.
I mean, that's still a pretty good season. I hate to tell people that. I know the Oregon expectations like really high, and that's fair. I mean, that's what you want. You want it to be that if it's a 3-loss season, you feel disappointed. But I just think that we don't know enough based off of the.
We don't know what we don't know.
Exactly, and I think that actually I feel a little bit more positive about them after being at the media day, because I do. So
tell us what your opinion of or your sense of what Dan Lanning was coming to the podium with.
Well, I think that it's a sense of the process. I mean, and I think that makes sense. If you're a program in college football, you're not going to be able to keep the same pieces in place over the number of years like you can in professional sports. And so it's about bringing in pieces that fit your program. And I think that the players that are replacing the players that played for the Ducks the last couple of seasons, who, by the way, graduated and went to the NFL. It's not like they transferred or something like that. And basically, I think that what he's trying to do is put a process in place where you can bring in players that are talented. I mean, you constantly hear whenever we talk to players, for instance, like Theron Johnson, who was a transfer, and he's being talked about. We were asking him about the young players, and he's like, I haven't seen young guys that are like this. The future of Oregon is bright. And we kind of hear that every single year with the guys that are supposed to be the guys playing this season, and they're kind of asked about, like, the freshmen who we don't get a chance to talk to. And, you mentioned Finney, who is 6'2", filled out, and said, like, this future for Oregon is going to be bright. So I think there's things, like, I don't know because we haven't seen it. And for me, it's not easy to just say, well, I think Oregon's going to go undefeated this season. They're going to go to Penn State. They're going to win the whiteout game. But I don't necessarily think that it's out of the question that they can be a very good team because the process is really good. They've done the transfer portal well. They've had guys in position underneath other guys well that are now taking a step up. Quarterback room, you had guys that were the mentees, and now they are the mentors. And Austin Novosad, who has been under some pretty good quarterbacks, by the way, including Dante Moore. So I'm kind of ranting here, but I don't know. I think that the process has been good, so it's fair to give them a more positive outlook, even though they are, I think it's fair to say, reloading. And I don't think Dan's shying away from that in any way. He's not sitting here and saying, oh, we're bringing back all the same guys. It's a new team.
Well, let's hear from the coach, Dan Lanning.
All right, let's hear what he says about sort of what things he wants to see and his thoughts heading into fall camp.
It never really changes season to season. There's an excitement just because it's a new group. You want to see what they embrace, what they want to attack. I think everyone's day one is always elite. There's always, there might be some mistakes, but they're mistakes that are made at full speed. I know that's going to happen with us. More than anything, I'm just ready to attack it and figure out what we're really great at, what we got to improve at. That's the fun part for me, is what problems do we get to solve.
Coach Dan Lanning, as he took the podium to start off media days here locally, and you've got it right here on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport. Danny and Justin from the Bigfoot Beverages studio, thanks for tuning in. We're here all week, folks, just one show a day, the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk. So Coach Lanning obviously won the Big Ten with his team last year. The Outliers, one of the first 4 teams from outside the conference to win the Big Ten championship in the regular season and in the championship game. And he talks about now what the expectation is for year 2.
Yeah, you talk about what to expect in year 2, and like you said, there's going to be several teams that we didn't play this past year. We got a unbelievable advanced scouting group. Tyler Dean, his staff, they do a ton for us as far as just hopping ahead to be able to evaluate what do these teams look like, who have they added, who have they lost, what coaching turnover do they have. And we do a kind of a summer scouting report on each one of those teams to give us a little bit of a feel for what are they going to look like, what do we need to be prepared for when we get to those points in the season. And kind of the way our bye weeks have fallen this next year, it's a little bit different than last year where they're so spread out. It's almost like you have individual seasons there where you can kind of prepare for what's new with each opponent. But some new venues that we're going to be traveling to, whether it's traveling to Rutgers or Iowa or Penn State, some Northwestern, those will all be new for us. So those will be new experiences that I'm excited for our guys to be able to handle and attack.
And so obviously everyone's going to be looking to that late September matchup at State College as Penn State will entertain the Ducks. It'll be a whiteout game. It'll be a nationally televised game. It'll be everything everyone's pointing towards.
And it was funny because he was asked about that game specifically.
Sure.
And, of course, what game did he say was he was looking forward to even more?
Montana State.
Montana State.
I see, I wasn't even there, and I can tell you 100%. What the answer is. Because that's just the next game. That's the mentality, and that's why they went 13-0 last year.
And even he said it. That's your coach speak for the day.
That's great. So let's talk about some individual players, because with all of the transfer and kids that are coming up within the program, and you mentioned a couple of them at the quarterback position, Dante Moore and Austin Novosad, and I will say, because they were both here on campus last year, and so they've learned Will Stein's offense. They're the most seasoned in the quarterback room. You've got Noah Woodington back in the backfield again. You've got some new players coming in and sprinkling in different spots, and those are going to be important. Unfortunately, lost Evan Stewart, who is going to be counted on at the wide receiver position.
Mackay Hughes.
But Mackay Hughes
Isaiah World as well.
Okay, but those are the transfers. Those are transfers coming out. I'm talking about the players that are already here, that have been here.
Sure.
You've got that base, and you've got that core, right? Bryce Betcher says he's coming back.
Kenyon Sadiq is back.
Kenyon Sadiq is back. So, I mean, there's that core that's back. But then you sprinkle in these more important players that are going to fill in big roles. And so you and I talk before we hear about from Coach Bear Alexander, because Bear Alexander comes in, the transfer from USC. He is one of those big body D linemen. He played in Texas. He's 22 years old. He knows what he's doing. I think he was probably underutilized at USC, and I think this is a kid that can thrive in this type of program. Your thoughts?
Well, he was at USC. He was also at Georgia. He also transferred multiple times in high school. So that's kind of the conversation, and that's kind of the direction of which Coach Lanning was asked about. But just going back to what you were asking me, I do think that he has the potential to be a critical part of this defense, because if you're like you're saying, he's a guy that hasn't been utilized correctly, and it just seems like something hasn't worked for him in the places he's been. And we'll get to coaches actual answer about what he thinks about sort of the misconceptions about Bear throughout his process of being a college football player. But I think that the potential is clearly there to be a focal point of the front of this defense. And you have a guy on the edge like Mateo Uiagalelei who can really set that edge. You need a guy in the middle that can set that run defense and take up the space and be an athlete. I mean, this guy has a ton of potential, and if you're putting it into a very stable place, like I think Oregon has been with a coach that can connect to players, I think you might be getting the best out of Bear Alexander this season, and that's the kind of thing Oregon's trying to do.
Well, I see him as a Jordan Birch or a Derek Harmon coming into the program. I mean, I think that guys that can turn it around quickly, have that expertise, and be able to learn from what Tosh Lupoy wants them to do on the D-line, and then let that next wave come in and help. And so Coach Lanning talks about Bear Alexander and his impact, his potential impact on this team.
Well, Bear's worked his tail off since he's been here, and I think he understands the perception that's out there. And like you said, perception isn't always reality. He puts in more time when it comes to film study, when it comes to extra work, than almost anybody in our program. And I think that speaks to his commitment. I also think he realized, hey, this is an opportunity for me to really set the stage for what am I going to be defined as moving forward. And he realizes, everybody wants individual success, but I think Bear's one of those guys that realizes that comes through team success. He's a guy that understands what standard looks like. And there was some in between there for him, but I think he felt really comfortable coming here, knowing that what it was like at Georgia and how could he recreate some of that experience coming to a place like Oregon. The relationship there certainly mattered. I'm excited to see what Bear does. He's worked his tail off since he's been here. He's been a pleasure to coach. He's going to have some up and down moments like every player in our program will when they get here. But so far, I'm really pleased with what I've seen from Bear. I'm excited to see what he's able to do out there on the field for us this year.
So there's Coach Dan Lanning talking about Bear Alexander and what his expectation is. And it kind of leads into, we're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball, Baby J, if you don't mind, because it kind of leads into, I think there were probably a lot more question marks, even though the quarterback is going to be the most important position. Okay, they're going to touch the ball every down on offense. But the defense had a lot of question marks coming into this season, especially at the defensive line. I think there was more lost on the defensive side of the football than there was that needed to be replaced on the defensive side of the football than there was on the offensive side. Because, I mean, with Jabbar Muhammad leaving, Kobe Savage, Tysheem Johnson, all these guys go, and that defensive backfield as well, and was filled in, though, nicely, again, the transfer portal, and there's going to be some freshmen or sophomores that are going to have to step up.
Yeah, Theron Johnson, who I was able to actually be there for his interview, it was interesting to hear him talk about being a veteran around a lot of young guys. You mentioned Dylan Thieneman is going to be a really nice transfer for them. He's already on all these preseason watch lists. But there are some young guys that I think made an impact even last season. Jaleel Florence played for them. Kingston Lopa, by the end of the season, I believe, played a pretty good amount in the Big Ten championship game even. Sione Laulea is a guy that I really like. So they're a team that has a lot of talent there. Jaden Kennedy. Brandon Finney Jr. is a guy that's coming in as a freshman that he was mentioned today as guys that are young, that are just, you don't see guys like this very often in terms of athletes. So I do think there's a lot of potential there. And Dan Lanning talks about this is a secondary that it looks like how you want it to look.
Yeah, we feel like there's a level of play, right, that you're either above the line or really below the line. As many guys as we can find that can do that, we want to find roles for them, right? And that it's going to look different week one than it'll look week 6, right? There were guys that were involved for us at the end of the season. Kingston Lopez is a great example. He's a guy that learned throughout the year and then was able to have a big role for us in the Big Ten championship this past season. So it'll change over time. But ultimately, this group looks a lot like you want it to look as far as size, speed, athleticism. It's our job now to get them caught up to where they can execute at a high level.
So Naheem Offord comes in as a highly rated freshman. Peyton Woodyard. Trey McNutt also comes in as a highly ranked. There's some freshmen on this team that could see some significant downs.
I think the concern, if you have some, is that there aren't a lot of upperclassmen that have a ton of experience from within. But certainly the guys they're bringing in, they're talented, and it's going to be about this time period, which is fall camp, and seeing how fast they can actually get to the adjustment of the speed of this level, because I think the biggest adjustment is going from high school to the college level, and so that first year is going to be just not so easy for some players. But if they can figure out how to get some of them involved, I think that they're very, very talented.
So Jaden Candidate, I mean, all of the upperclassmen that you're talking about, all are transfers. Like Candidate coming from
100%.
Tulane and Ole Miss, You've got you already mentioned Thieneman, and you already mentioned Theron Johnson. Got Thieneman. Yeah. So so what we're looking at as well is how do these players mesh with each other? That is the biggest thing, because you cannot just play 4 or 5 guys, 4 or nickel or anything else, even a dime back there all the time. They're going to have to rotate in and out a bit because they're going to get worn down. And especially you're looking for bigger body defensive backs, because that's one of the bigger knocks. Now, fortunately, you're not playing Ohio State in the regular season. Maybe see him in the Big Ten championship game. But you're not going to have the Jeremiah Smiths every weekend that you're going to have to go up against. So the schedule plays into this defensive backfield also learning as they go and getting better as they go.
But I also think that brings up a great point, though, is that even though you don't have Ohio State on your schedule, you are preparing. If you're Oregon,
you have to
be playing for teams like that, even if they're not on your schedule. You're going to still play Penn State, of course, and then if your goal is to get to the Big Ten championship and to get to the playoff, you're going to be playing teams with big wide receivers that can also move. And so, I think this is kind of getting to my point from earlier, which is why I do feel a little bit better about them after this media day, is because, maybe it's just the rah-rah a little bit about hearing about the process, but I do think it makes sense. You're not necessarily going to have the same pieces, but they're bringing in guys that you kind of know you're getting something out of, and then you're also bringing in young talent that you are going to be able to potentially grow and develop.
So Dan Lanning also, you move from the defensive side to the offensive side of the football. There are still a lot of questions about Dante Moore, Austin Novosad. Everyone thinks the winner in the clubhouse right now is Dante Moore at the quarterback position, but nobody's going to anoint Dante Moore as the number one. But you have to have pieces around Dante Moore or an Austin Novosad at the quarterback position. Mekhi Hughes coming in, big-time transfer, and he's already on the Maxwell Award watch list in the preseason. So that shows that there is that type of, I would say, respect for his talent. Malik Benson, another kid who's a younger kid who could actually make some waves in a room offensively at the skill position pieces. There is some room, and especially in a loaded running back room, there is going to be opportunities on the outside. And then we talk about Kenyon Sadiq at the tight end position. We both think he's going to act like another wide receiver. He's going to be targeted like crazy. Big body who can be athletic, who can stretch the field. That is going to cause a lot of defensive coaches on the opposite side some problems.
And I think when it comes down to it, the Ducks are going to want to run the ball. Dan Lanning talked about this today. He wants the team to be able to average at least 5 yards a carry and to keep an opposing team from under 3.5 or 3.3 yards per carry. But I do think that it is interesting thinking about the wide receivers because of the injury, of course, to Evan Stewart and sort of what that brings us to, which is a team that we thought we might have a number one in Evan Stewart. And now I think that it's a more open game. There's plenty of guys that can contribute. And so Dan Lanning was asked about it, if there's an opportunity for these guys, and if he was excited about that for the younger players that need to get the opportunity.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been some great wideouts to play at Oregon, but I don't think that's something that Oregon's ever necessarily been known for. And you look over the last few years at some of the guys that have been performing for us, whether it's going back to like Troy, right, or what Tez has done more recently. Like, we've been able to have some real success with our wideouts. And I even think back to that, the beginning years of early guys like Chase Cota that made such an impact just because of the way he carried himself, what kind of leader he was. And then obviously Junior did a great job with talent acquisition and developing relationships in that room. Big fan of June. Excited to see what he does with the Cowboys. But Ross has a new challenge, and he's certainly up to that challenge. You look at how he coaches, the details that he puts in it, the experience he's had, whether it's with the Patriots or Syracuse, or even his experience of being on the defensive side of the ball, earlier in his career. I think all those things are going to really pay dividends for our guys this season. And we have some of that same thing again. We have some young guys, and then we have some guys that have a lot of experience, or at least a lot of time in that room, whether it's Gary Bryant or Justice Lowe, guys that have been in there for a long time, know what it looks like. And then some young guys that are going to be coming up and have an opportunity to make an impact. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you guys.
Dan Lanning, as he talks about the offense, especially at the wide receiver position, and this is intriguing. And when Evan Stewart goes down, now you've got Malik Benson, who's a transfer from Florida State. He was at Alabama for a second, also at Hutchinson Community College in Kansas in the Jayhawk League. That's where he started out. And he's a hometown kid from Lansing, Kansas. He could have some huge impact in this wide receiver room. Decoria Moore as a freshman, I think, is the most intriguing one for me. Gary Bryant Jr. is an all-everything guy. He's going to be probably a lot on special teams, a redshirt senior, a little bit smaller, but the guy has got some jets. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him. And then Justice Lowe, who got on the field a couple of times last year because of injury, I think he also has a huge upside and potential in this offense. So this wide receiver room is stacked, but I guess the question is, in this offense, is untested, is unproven in game situations.
Well, I think there's some guys we've seen a little bit. We've seen a little Kyler Casper. We've seen a little Gary Bryant Jr., Justice Lowe, Jeremiah McClellan. We haven't really seen too much Jurion Dickey. But we haven't seen anybody that has been like a true number one. And so my question coming into the season is, do you need that? Do you need to be a team that has a true number one? Because I don't think so. I think you could be the type of team that has guys that excel in certain things. You don't need somebody that's great at everything. You need to be able to put guys in position where they're going to succeed. And so that actually, in a way, I think opens. You want to have a guy that you can go to when you need to get a completion. And you might have that actually at your tight end position instead of the receiver position this year. But I do think that there are teams that can be benefited by not having a guy that defenses can key in on all the time and say, hey, this guy's over here, I think this is where it's going to go. Instead, you have an option of a lot of guys that you can go to. So I think that's going to be kind of the goal, to mix it with the run game. You don't want to be predictable. So I don't think you need any of these guys to break out and be that 1,000-yard receiver. I think that obviously DeCorian Moore in the future, we'll see where that goes in his sophomore and his junior seasons. But freshman year, he's going to have to adjust to the speed of the game. We saw him a little bit in the spring game. He made a big play, but
so did Dylan Gresham,
not everybody
by the way.
is going to be a Jeremiah Smith.
No.
You know? So I think that we got to take it and play it by ear with this wide receiver group. But there is a lot of talent, and there's a lot of big players and a lot of guys that can do things differently than the other guys that are in the room. So I like that.
Much more from Dan Lanning, and we'll hear from some players as well tomorrow as we'll get all the tape from the club at Autzen on Media Days. Wednesday is Oregon State Media Days as well, so we'll have a lot from that as we'll head up to Corvallis. But much more to cover. Deion Sanders, thank goodness he's going to be better, but we'll talk about the social media storm around Coach Sanders, and then also who's going to be making the next big move in Major League Baseball when we return. Danny and Justin, Fox Sports Eugene and Newport. Well, much more from Media Days that are still going on. They're just wrapping things up now at the club at Autzen for Oregon football. We hear more from Dan Lanning and some of the players who participated. There are a lot of players. They run out like 20 players out there and rotate them all around. They do a really nice job on Media Day up there at Oregon. And then Oregon State on Wednesday. So we'll have all of that for you coming up this week on the Danny and Justin radio program. So as you were going through social media today, I'm sure you saw the scroll that Colorado football coach, the Buffalo football coach, Deion Sanders, was going to hold a press conference with his medical team. And so then all the swirling and the conjecture started in Twitterverse, which I find it's almost, I don't want to say offensive, but it's like, why does everybody need to break news?
Because
I still
you get more
don't
attention.
Okay, yeah, otherwise
Everybody says that this guy broke it.
and they're wrong. And then they're wrong, and then it's
Right.
crickets, and then it's not taken down. And there were several outlets. So like Colorado Buffaloes on SI finally came out with, said, and they waited, Deion Sanders addresses quit rumors due to health issues. That's their headline. But a lot of them, and even more on, and I'm not going to name all the sites because I don't want to give them attention, but there were some that have like, over 4 million followers that go, yeah, he's going to resign. He's going to retire from coaching because of health issues. And it's a source. I just tell you this, there's not a lot of things I hate in this world, but in this, when you have this in front of you, and I'm pointing to the microphone, if you have a pulpit, be respectful. And don't be involved in rumor mongering. That's what it is. And even if you have a source, then to me it's not valid unless you say who it is. Say who it is. Trey Popufnik from the Colorado coaching staff says that Deion told him he's going to retire. That is a lot more valid to me than someone saying a source told me.
Yeah.
Agree, disagree?
No, I mean, I agree. I don't know if there's much to argue with you there, to be honest with you, because it's just so easy, especially in today's day and age, to make up anything and sit there and say, well, a source told me, and then everybody will take it as gospel.
I mean, us tongue-in-cheek, we've had opportunities to say things that we know that we're in the know on, but it's not appropriate.
No, you have to know what the time and place is. And
Right.
I mean, especially because we want to maintain the trust of the people we're talking to.
Right, but I don't go out and say, hey, somebody told me this. I can't tell you who it is.
Sure.
But
That's
I'm going to
true.
tell you that I think this is what's going on.
Right.
That gets you into more trouble than it's worth, as far as I'm concerned. And we always make the tongue-in-cheek thing is like, you know, at 3:01, there's going to be some breaking stuff that comes out.
Yeah.
That's confirmed, right? Like we were all on pins and needles with the Evan Stewart thing, right? It was just like we didn't know what was going on, but we couldn't confirm
just
one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way that was coming out, I thought it maybe wasn't true because it just was coming from so many weird sources, and then.
But see, that's where you how do you
I
divine
actually
what's
almost
true and what's
default
not true?
to not thinking things are true, or at least sort of not assuming that something that's coming out is correct until you hear an official source that says, yes, this is what's happening. Because there's just, again, we hear so many times, like just this is a perfect example about, oh, Deion's going to retire, or Deion's leaving Colorado, and it's because everybody basically wants Deion to leave Colorado. That's why this is sparking up, because everybody knows that's sort of what people kind of expect out of him, and the path they think that they can get from Deion. So they're just going to make a rumor that people are, there's just enough truth in there maybe that people can believe, and all of a sudden it's swirling.
So I respect and admire his talent. I've never been sold, and I've been unabashed in my opinion. I've never really been sold on him as a head coach yet. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. It's just maybe it's a style differential that I don't adhere to, but it doesn't matter. And I'm just one opinion. If he's successful, then who am I to sit here in little Eugene, Oregon, because I have a microphone to say he's doing it wrong? I've never said he's doing it wrong. I just said there's different approaches, and sometimes I just don't align with it. But I'm glad he's.
And you're
I'm glad
like
he's
a lot
better.
of other people, and that's why I think that this rumor really started, because there's a lot of people that kind of agree with you.
Oh,
and they
polarizing
think
is for sure.
Exactly, and so there's kind of an assumption.
So I'm glad he's going to be better, and I hope
Yes.
that he is totally going to recover from this, because cancer is a serious and ugly thing, and he had his bladder removed. It has. You cannot walk around without at least one person in your family or somebody that you know has been affected by it. So. Last real quick thing. Who's going to be the biggest? Who's going to make the biggest splash with 2 days left officially in MLB? Who's going to make the biggest splash? Just give me a team. Just I don't know. I don't know player.
Should do it.
Who?
Milwaukee.
Okay.
They got all the pitching. They get a guy like Eugenio Suarez. That lineup all of a sudden actually has at least one
what would
guy
they have
that
to
you're afraid
give
of.
up to get him?
I don't know,
That's
but they have a top 10 farm system. They always do. I think if you're a team like that, this might be your year. This is the best they've ever been at the deadline. So I think that if you kind of go for it here, you're actually you have a shot. That's why I think it should be Milwaukee. I mean, as a Cubs fan, I don't want that, but if I'm looking at a team out there that I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go for it this season, it's Milwaukee.
So the next couple of days we'll talk a little bit more. We don't normally talk a lot about the trading deadlines and the national leagues and such, but this one might warrant it, because it's been a really interesting Major League Baseball season.
What? I have a feeling, though, it's going to be one of those deadlines that almost nothing happens. Everybody talks about it, and then there's very few moves.
Or it releases 24 hours later that the deals have to clear the commissioner's office, comes through at midnight. And that's happened before. It has.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that joke.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes.
Baby J, did you hear about the anxious seamstress?
No.
Oh, probably not, but she's on pins and needles.
Pins and needles, you say?
Yes, I do say. Pins and needles. All right, so tomorrow on the program, again, more from Media Days. We might have a guest, we might not. We're still efforting a couple of things for you. So if you missed the program, go pod us wherever you pod. If you want to join us live, you can do that from 2 to 3 Pacific time right here on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport over the air or online. Have a good rest of the day there, Baby J.
Thank you.
Stay cool, baby. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you. Put a smiley face on someone else's. So do you. For Baby J, I'm Danny. Peace.